So, welcome to this week's Throw Starfish. We're going with something a little bit different for this episode. We're going to try our first interview all about the wonderful pill of magic that is sleep.
I'm Penny.
I'm Johnny.
I'm Ruth.
And I'm James, the sleep geek.
The wonderful sleep geek. So we're going to continue in our normal conversational style with James involved, and we're going to talk about lots of things to do with sleep, mainly because in quite a few of the other things we've talked about so far, sleep comes up as this really important thing, which kind of I think people know, but don't always acknowledge firsthand. So perhaps a good starting point would be for you to really clarify for us how important and impactful it really can be.
I think when it comes to, if you think about sleep, it is one of the four things we need to live. Without it, we'd die. So there's air, there's water, there's food, and there's sleep. And I think we take the other three far more seriously. And I think when we look at sort of the health triangle, we try and talk about health triangles. We look at nutrition, we look at exercise, and we look at sleep. And really the two most important ones are nutrition and sleep in terms of our health. And actually, you can live longer without food than you can live without sleep. So the consensus is 3 weeks without food, and the most someone has gone without sleep is 11 days. And the reason we know this is that there's a family in Australia and Italy who have a genetic condition called familial insomnia, and they actually die from lack of sleep.
Oh wow!
So it's like going through Alzheimer's really quickly, and they'll have one day where they stop sleeping, and then they'll just slowly never sleep again. And the longest someone's done is 11 days.
My word!
So it is that important. It really is that important. I think in this country we probably don't take it as seriously as we should compared to other countries. I think culturally there's a big problem.
This is really worrying. So we mention in our Bullet Journal podcast and Miracle Mornings the importance of sleep, and our news feeds on LinkedIn, Facebook, pretty much all the social media is about what these amazing, successful people do, and they're typically surviving on 4 hours sleep. How does that make you feel when you're seeing all of this mythical stuff about people hungry to be successful and now going, I'm going to sleep for 4 hours?
Really, really pissed off, to be honest. You know, it's one of those things where that person is not successful because of their lack of sleep. That person has a lack of sleep because they're too busy and they are not putting enough emphasis on sleep. And I would argue, imagine how great they could be with a proper night's sleep. They would be sharper, they would be healthier, they would live longer. And I think it was mentioned in one of the previous podcasts. We put some of these people on pedestals, like Margaret Thatcher in particular, is always the one that we seem to come back to. And Margaret Thatcher died of Alzheimer's, and there's a massive connection between lack of sleep and Alzheimer's. And I'm not saying that's what caused it, but it will not have helped her overall health. It will not have helped her decision making in particular. And as we're sat here in South Yorkshire, we sometimes see the decisions Maggie made.
Yes.
And I think you know, it's this idea that a lack of sleep gives you some sort of superhuman sense. Like, you can beat sleep. Sleep hack is nothing annoys me more than sleep hacks, because sleep is not about hacking it. It's not about beating sleep. It's actually about just doing some quite boring things every day, if possible, that will help you sleep better. And if you get that sleep that you need, not what your partner needs, not what Doris down the road needs, what you need, not what that celebrity has, that sports star, it's about what you need. You will sleep well, and you will live better, and you'll be healthy.
So in Silicon Valley now, I've noticed that they seem to be making a lot of impact on trends for people's health and lifestyle, and they are also working really hard to try and hack sleep. In fact, in my newsfeed this morning on Business Insider, I think it was, there's a new technique that a lot of them are swearing by, that they sleep for 2 hours they wake for 2 hours and then sleep for 10 minutes. Like, how do these things come about?
So all they're doing is living off like an energy boost. So they're living off, it'd be like just drinking caffeine. You know, they're giving themselves an energy boost to then do work for 2 hours and then sleep for 10 minutes. So they may get the job done. They may in that short term give themselves enough time in that day to do what they need to do. Their long-term health is getting hammered. You know, it's getting messed with incredibly. Napping is always one of those things that comes up, and we talk about napping, and we all like a nap, you know, and there are rules around napping, less than 30 minutes or more than 2.5 hours. But actually, if you're napping on a consistent basis during the day, you're not sleeping well at night. And so places like Google have got nap pods in, and Facebook have got nap pods in. Just let your staff have a good night's sleep. Maybe start the working day later, or if they have an early riser, let them start earlier.
Yeah.
Actually build the working day around them as an individual, rather than spending a fortune on a nap pod that if you actually let your staff sleep properly, they wouldn't need.
Quite ironically, this weekend I've had probably the worst night's sleep that I've had in a long time. And in fact, I was very badly Facebooking Johnny because Johnny had seen that I was like actually awake still. And it was because I'd had a nap too early and it just carried on. And then I'd woke up and I was so awake. I literally couldn't. I'm a good sleeper and I just couldn't get back to sleep.
Really funny. This is really, really shit. I can't sleep at all. What are you doing? I'm writing my notes up on some podcast.
Which obviously, no. The advice I would give is not to start doing things like go up talk to on social media. But it is something like napping is something that really impacts on our sleep, depending on when you do it during the day. And so sports people often do it as part of their training regime, but that's because they may have worked with a chronobiologist who's looked at where they're competing in the world and looked at what they need to do and said, and that might help you.
Or you've got it ridiculously early. I always end up having a nap when I've trained. So before the podcast, we were talking, James had done a little bit of prep and listened to a few of them. We were like, oh, what's interesting? He was like, why do you get up at 4:30 to swim? And yeah, I think that's one of the not so great things that I do around exercise and lifestyle.
Johnny, you're a fan of the power nap. You've got this thing, haven't you? It's like alpha wave break or something. So what do you use that for? And perhaps we can see if it's the right thing.
I know bits about sleep because I did a load of research into it because I did a project at university.
Yeah, but you're not a doctor with a
I'm
PhD.
Let's be. I am not a doctor with a PhD. I'm a man in glasses who knows a lot about sleep. There's a big difference between the two. I am a CBTI practitioner and a sleep environment expert. So I know enough about it, but what Johnny knows might be more about me than me about brainwaves. So let's find out.
Stop chucking your labels, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I did a load of research because I was looking at designing a product that would help you wake up in the morning and looking at all the different can't even remember the terminology now. Circadian rhythms.
Yeah,
circadian rhythms and stuff. And I looked at napping and did a lot of research in this idea that it should never be more than half an hour, but should be around 20 minutes. But then also looked at the different stages in which the brainwaves are as you fall through different parts of sleep, and this idea that people feel like they're falling asleep or they're waking up, but it is actually a cut-off step change switch where you are literally on or off. There is no in between. And is it hypnagogic and something else? The two waking and sleeping phases where you are actually asleep, but you're not in deep enough sleep.
Yeah.
So I use just a free app that basically is the difference in beeps or noises that it plays between each ear that simulates a similar effect to your different brainwaves, whether they're gamma, beta or alpha, which gives you a different level of immersion. But I also have just a little podcasty recording thing called an alpha break, which is quite a cheesy American self-affirmation thing. But because every time I nap I put that on, I've anchored my nap to that. So it's just a trigger that when I put that on, I know I'm just shutting off and I'm going to be back in 20 minutes. And I just set an alarm. It's only 12 minutes, so it finishes. I set the brainwave thing for 15 minutes. So hopefully there's at least 5 minutes where I'm actually in pure silence and then my alarm comes off. But because I've done that so many times, I know it's a 20-minute gap. So I only nap for that amount of time.
So I guess that the two things that spring to mind on that is, does that work for you? And then James, is he impacting his long-term health?
I would say no, he's not impacting his long-term health because he's actually doing, if you are napping, that's the way you should do it. It might be that Johnny's body's got into that behaviour and so it's like this perfect world, and a perfect world would say we'd get Johnny to good sleep at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every day, and it'd be the perfect type of sleep because actually quality is more important than quantity, and he wouldn't have to nap. However, our bodies get into behaviours, and a lot of it is, does it work for you? You know, I am an insomniac, so I do things that probably a practitioner would not recommend to try and help me sleep sometimes. And I think if you're doing napping, Johnny's model is perfect because you want a trigger, you want to be able to do it for about 20 minutes to half an hour. And if I was a sports person doing it on a regular basis, or swimming at 4:30 in the morning and I wanted to trigger, I'd use that model because that is perfect. You know, that is the way you should do it.
And I don't do it every day, but I do find, like, if there's a super early meeting I've got to get to, I will get to a point where I'm just like looking at the screen or doing whatever. I'm just like, I can't concentrate anymore. I'm just going to reset, and it does work as a reset. Like, so maybe it takes me 5-10 minutes to come round, but I can actually see the screen in full focus and concentrate again. And I know that if I fought through, I would literally be fighting for the rest of the day, but it is just like a reset button.
And that is how nap should be used. It should be used as an energy boost. It's used in the same way as a little bit of exercise or a exposure to sunlight, and that gets our body going in the same way. So sometimes you pick a nap, sometimes you pick those other two things. If we're dealing with someone with insomnia, because it's very different how we work with someone with insomnia, because often insomnia and sleep deprivation get confused, and what Johnny has on those days is sleep deprivation, not insomnia. So if an insomnia sufferer, we would probably not use a nap, because all that does is hurt their drive to sleep. So from the moment we wake up, we have a drive to sleep. So you might find in the day, so you wake up at 7 every day in the week, and you go to bed at 11. So you have this drive from 7, tick, 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 see it like the countdown clock, get to the end, and you're ready for bed. On the weekend, if you lay in, and you lay in by 2 hours till 9, well, you made that clock move by 2 hours at the other end. So often you have this idea of Sunday night blues, and it's because we're going to work on Monday. It isn't. It's because you've laid in for 2 days, and your body's all confused as to what time you should be going to bed. Oh. And that, no, it's those things that you have to. If you know all that information, you can then make a decision whether to nap or not. What you are doing is, because you woke up early, your tick, 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 tick has changed a little bit, and you need that little energy boost to get through the rest of the day.
So, what would you advise if someone was going to do like shift work, for example?
We would look at the shifts. So you start, if you're looking at shift work, you look at the shifts. You look at whether, like I've heard, I've not worked with, but I've heard of people who've got 5 different shift patterns, one week after another.
Like the police, for example, they have like 6 days on, 4 days off, but they do like 2 earlies, 2 lates, 2 afternoons or something like that. So every 2 days, their shift pattern changes, and then you have 4 days to recover. So I'm just intrigued. Incredibly
hard, because your body's not designed to do it. So my first comment would be the police service needs to try and work on a shift system that works with people's natural rhythms a little bit better, because it'll be easier for them to do the job. Often we're using things like we are looking at caffeine intake during the night to keep them awake, light exposure, so you can get light boxes, and it isn't a case of you expose them to the light box at exactly the time they feel tired. You look at their actual sleep cycles and you pick a point in the day that works, and it might be early in the day, but that light exposure just then actually helps them 4 or 5 hours later to have that energy boost. It's very difficult, we're not designed to work at night. We're really not designed to work at night. In Denmark, they've actually paid out to public sector workers who got breast cancer, who were doing night shifts, so like nurses and people like that, because it was this lack of sleep was causing them it was the connection between lack of sleep and the breast cancer was proven.
Wow.
So we are not designed to be awake at night. We really are not, and it's difficult because some people have a job that means they have to be, and it does have a long-term effect on their sleep. So when they stop being a policeman or woman, they will probably not sleep very well because the body does not know what's happening. But it's quite complicated. We start with a shift pattern, and then we use like anchor points. So we try and find a point in the day that they can sleep every single day, whether that's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we try and get them to have 3 or 4 hours sleep at that point, and then fit sleeping in other places. So I work quite closely with chronobiologists and people like that. That's their expertise. That is not really something I'm massively an expert on, but I often pull people in who know more than me to solve those sorts of problems.
Wow. So you clearly know a fair bit about this. Not a doctor. Not an extensive, but how did you get to this point? Like you said, you sort of suffered from insomnia. Obviously, we've known each other for quite a while, so we know some of the background, but you've kind of taken an interesting route to get to this point. Can you give us a kind of...
I have. So I was a teenage insomniac, and I got to sort of my mid-20s and thought I need to do something about this. And my mum is a bad sleeper, and my grandpa was a bad sleeper, and it shows that sleep is actually a lot of genetics. So all of you sat here will took sleep from your parents. And then it's a bit behavioural, and I was doing stupid things. I remember I did an entrepreneurship exam at university, and I thought, I can't sleep, I'm going to drink half a bottle of Jack Daniels. That didn't work, I didn't get to sleep, and I got 41% in my entrepreneurship exams. And it was weird that when I was a teenager, I sat in my room and listened to Hallam FM every night, listened to Mark Meadowcroft talking all the time, trying to find things that had turned my brain off. and I didn't even think it was a problem. I thought that was the norm. You know, that to me that was the norm, and I just went with it until I was sort of in my mid-20s. And my family, ironically, made mattresses and beds. So I was selling a product that purported to help you sleep better, and it didn't. For me, I look like death warmed up. So it was not really the best sales pitch when I'm turning up to sell a product to you. And I got a bit of an interest in terms of how products worked around sleep, because a lot of products we sell or we buy for sleep don't work, and actually sometimes make sleep worse. And there's a lot of sizzle in sleep products, and sometimes not enough sausage. So I went into retail selling products that I felt had evidence that they worked, whether it was anecdotal or clinical. And through that, I got very good at picking winners in terms of what was coming into the market, and then got into product development. So I've worked with mattress manufacturers, I've worked with duvet and pillow manufacturers, I've worked with a tech company. So my job now is bringing together those two bits, because sleep is about a restful environment, it's about routine, it's about being relaxed. And I bring those three things together, you know. And in terms of like the sleep environment stuff, there's probably no one like me in the world in the way that I look at how sleep environment works with others individuals. So how do we make an environment conducive to a good night's sleep? How do we feel secure in it? How do we just try and get those little things that actually for us work? So it might be with children, because I do a lot of work with the Children's Sleep Charity. We're looking at pictures of the family just to relax them. You know, we might be looking at taking a dressing gown off the back of a door, because when you wake up in the middle of the night, it looks like a robber or someone coming to burgle you. And I still do this when something hung up on the back of my door. I will wake up and then realise that actually it's my dressing gown. So it's sometimes the tiniest thing I look at. You know, I go and look at someone's room, and we might be changing little things. We might also be changing. You know, a lot of people, a bedroom should be for two things that begin with S. One is sleep, and the other is sex, and that is it. Bedrooms are getting turned into these leisure rooms that we watch TV in there, we work in there, we look at Facebook and talk to Johnny at 3:30 in the morning in there. You know, we're not. Our environment is all about let's create the best environment we can for sleep. So I work with hotels, I work with hospitals, I work with people like that, how do we make this the best place to sleep?
Fantastic. And that has got to quite an interesting point recently, because we've actually been trying to organise doing this podcast for 2 or 3 weeks now, but you've actually been having quite an interesting 2 or 3 weeks doing something else.
I have. So I've been filming a TV documentary with Channel 4 where we are, but I can't say much about it, but it's basically we are saying this team of experts is sort of the gold standard, and everyone should have access to this team of experts, and we've given 12 people access to us, and we follow their journeys solving their sleep issues. And we talk about people with some quite serious sleep problems, from sleep, PTSD, narcolepsy, insomnia, obstructive sleep apnea. So we're looking at not just sort of I can't get to sleep. We're looking at actually how our bodies sometimes stop us sleeping. And it's been really interesting, and hopefully when it goes out, people see the hard work we put in and whether it was successful or not.
Nice.
So a couple of things. I've got 2 burning questions.
Let's do them.
So one is culturally, on your 2 days off, whether that's the weekend or your fake weekend is if you work funny work patterns, we treat ourselves to a lay-in, but then the Sunday night blues happens because we've disturbed our sleep pattern. So can we conclude from that we should, even at the weekends or days off, maintain a regular sleep pattern?
In a perfect world, the one thing we would all do that would help us sleep better is go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. But have an appropriate go to bed and wake up time for us. So there is the University of Munich do a questionnaire you can fill in, and it'll tell you your sleep profile. So whether you're an early riser or a late riser. I'll give you the link, and that'll be something. It's a really interesting place to start in terms of your sleep. What am I as a sleeper? When you know that, you can then work out what time should I be going to bed and what time should I be getting up. And sometimes it is because that life takes over. You might have to get up early because you've got kids. You might have to get up early because of work. But if we can try and get as much as possible, you getting the sleep you need as an individual, then you will be healthier. So yeah, if we all actually were more consistent in our bedtime and our wake up time, we would feel a lot better.
How do you feel about charts? Johnny's got a lovely chart where he marks down like how much sleep he has and what time he goes to sleep. He's giving me such
No,
dead eye.
I like the fact that you described it as a chart. I have it as a bullet journal tracker, and I put it in my Google Calendar. It's all in
I like chart. You are diminishing.
He's got a star chart. So Johnny's got a star chart. Very much.
Sleep star chart.
I think it's different people have a different relationship with sleep. So some people love tracking it. You know, the person who loves tracking it, often there's a stereotype to him, and I think Johnny probably meets that stereotype.
Yes.
But the thing with sleep is compared to other parts of health, other things that go into health. If you are overweight, you can eat better, and you can make that conscious decision, and you can do it. If you don't exercise enough, you can exercise more, and you can do it. You can't force yourself to sleep. And so for some people, that approach it'd be too involved, and they would think too much about their sleep, and therefore they wouldn't sleep. So we are often trying to do loads of things before you go to bed, loads of things during the day and as you wake up, but we're not trying to force you to sleep. And actually, what we do when I'm working with insomniacs and we're doing sort of cognitive behaviour therapy for insomnia, we actually like sleepiness. We make people more tired, which seems like a really counterintuitive way to solve the problem, but we will often, if you are in bed and you have not gone to sleep within half an hour of going to bed, you should get up and start again, because your body, the hormones you produce, the adrenaline, the cortisol from the stress created by not falling asleep, means that if you do fall asleep, the quality will be appalling. So actually, a bit of sleep deprivation is good, and you should be going to bed and falling asleep within half an hour, and that is healthy sleep. Wow. If you're laying awake for 3-4 hours, that's not healthy sleep.
Watching Netflix in bed's not a good idea.
Not watching Netflix in bed is the worst.
Don't check my Snapchat.
So, I can't remember when it was. I think it was about maybe 8-9 years ago I first met you, and at that time I had chronic insomnia. And I remember really resisting you telling me that I needed to knock out the coffee, and I was just like,
Really,
this
Penny,
can't
you surprised me. You were
this
resisting
can't be
something.
right. You have no idea. I stay awake for days on end, not quite 11 days or I'd be dead, but always feeling like I'd not had a lot of sleep. And you were quite adamant, if you do one thing, Penny, knock out the coffee or don't have it after a particular time. Well, maybe after about 3 or 4 years, I've got so desperate that I decided to do that, and I have to say thank you, because I have since then, more often than not, enjoyed a decent night's sleep. I won't say that I've got brilliant at sleeping yet, but as a general rule, I don't know the last time I experienced the last bout of...
And you were definitely an insomniac. I would say you were definitely
I was
insomniac.
a definite, yeah.
And I think I rarely sleep more than 6.5 hours, but I know that's me, and I accept that's me. So, but I know you've done a podcast on mindfulness. Mindfulness works really well around accepting that who you are as a sleeper. So when you're awake in the middle of the night, if you're a bad sleeper, you know how good you are at dealing with a bad night's sleep. And the next day, there's no one better at functioning tired. So it's sometimes changing your actual attitude to sleep as well.
Yeah.
We know, there's been research that shows how we feel the next morning about our sleep dictates sort of our mood during the day. So I think a little bit of the magic morning sort of stuff is around that. Actually, he's saying I can only sleep 5 hours, but because I've put in place a routine that makes me feel great, I feel great for the rest of the day. And he's right, that is true. You know, you do. There's research to show it. And I think you've changed your relationship with sleep. Your journey of actually deciding when to do it is also very common. You know, I talk to people and I tell them what they should be doing, and they don't do it because it doesn't work for their life at the time, and that's fine. But then at some point, something will happen to make them do it, and then they come back and say, "Oh, you were actually right." I go, "Oh yeah, no shit, Sherlock."
The thing that I take from that is that I could not, just for how poorly I slept and the consequences of it, my brain would not accept that it was something as simple as a cup of coffee. I was like, no, there's more to it than that.
And normally there is more to it, to be honest. We are putting together lots of things. So what often people do is do one thing, and they go, well, that worked. I've done it for 2 days. So if we are changing behaviours after this podcast...
I only ever do anything for 2 days.
So if we are changing behaviours after people listen to this, you need to give it 2 or 3 weeks. It normally gets worse before it gets better when we're working with people. So if someone is used to going to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would not recommend thinking, well, I'll start going to bed at 10, because James said, and this is why, as a practitioner, it's about coaching people actually through that journey, because changing your sleep cycle for 4 hours is not advisable at all. But it's often those little tiny changes. But it's often also starting with one thing. So you changing your caffeine, you probably then change other things after that aren't as big, but you see the caffeine as the one thing that you've changed. And
Oh, yeah.
Like shutting the curtains.
shutting the curtains always helps.
But I used to come like, no, mate, you up yet? Kind of. What's wrong? Oh, I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. You've not shut your curtains? That's probably about the time that the sun came up this morning.
However, I've now got that good at sleeping that it doesn't impact me if I shut the curtains or not. But if I do have a difficult time of it,
Kind
I
of does
will
that.
shut the curtain. No, it doesn't.
But waking up with natural light is brilliant. So Ruth, if you're waking up at 4:30 in the morning to go swimming,
The summer is so much easier.
Yeah.
When it gets to winter, it's horrible because you wake up and you're like, your body's like, you should go. And I can literally lay in bed and make every excuse. Oh, it sounds really windy. Imagine if I crashed my car this morning. Oh, I probably shouldn't go. The amount of times that I've thought that. But in the summer, I'm like, yeah, this is great. This is it. I don't know why I ever found this a problem.
but you can get sunshine alarm clocks, so alarm clocks that mimic the sun. And I think that's a product you would
Yeah.
do something similar, weren't you? Out of everything I've ever sold, I've ever been involved with, sunshine alarm clocks are the greatest thing because they pull you out of deep stage of sleep. Because at half full, you might be in a deeper stage of sleep.
Yeah.
It pulls you out, so your alarm goes off. You're not as like, you don't have that alarm goes off and you have that like, oh, you know, like that sort of feeling where everything's falling apart. It's
When
just,
I was getting good at training in the morning, there was an app that did that. So you put it on your pillow and it like measured
yes.
sleep or something, the amount of movement and things that you had, and it then you said what time you needed to be up and it brought you out gradually, and that was okay, but it just it wasn't 100% right, and I didn't like having my phone that close to it.
Yeah, and and you know, a light you buy, the bulb is the sun, where that your phone
Yeah.
cannot mimic it that
No.
well. So it's
And
sort
it
of,
was about the time everyone's phones were setting on fire, and I was
Yeah,
just like,
which,
that's
yeah.
not good.
yeah, and having having your phone next to your head when you're sleeping, you know, I'd always put in airplane mode.
Yeah, always,
There is evidence to show that the sort of the wireless networks and the Bluetooth networks interrupts the work our brain does during the night. So basically in the night our brain is working overtime. I think I picked up a little bit in one of the podcasts where you were talking about sort of it's when you remember and consolidate information, and that is we think that's sleep's main function. It cleans out the toxins. Your brain isn't part of the lymphatic system, so they think it has a glymphatic system, which is where calcium washes the brain out, and that gets rid of toxins that cause things like dementia and Alzheimer's. In quite simple terms, it's a bit more complicated than that.
So if you have like dementia and Alzheimer's in your family, actually making sure you sleep more can prevent it.
It can make you less predisposed to having it. So sleep works with genetics, where your behaviours can then make things less likely to happen. It can still happen,
Wow.
but it can have an effect on it, definitely. And that's
So we should always be prioritising sleep.
yeah, in that way, really like, important. But the wireless networks can interrupt that process of sort of cleaning. It can interrupt the process of consolidation. So all you got to do is put your phone in airplane mode, and it's a simple thing. And it was sort of, when I first read this, because you're reading all these articles all the time, we were learning about sleep all the time, which is the brilliant thing about what I do. That what I think now has changed since 8-9 years ago, and that's always changing because we're always learning. But I as soon as I read that, right, airplane mode, because it's too important. But there's so many products in our house with wireless networks. Babies' monitors now work on. You can get Bluetooth wireless babies' monitors.
Right. Break out the aluminium foil.
You can have
My
that approach
hat
to it.
for sleeping in has been my helmet, full head helmet of aluminium foil tonight.
You can have that approach to it. If it was me making that decision based on what the little bits of research that show, I would go back to the old-fashioned radio, sort of the two-way radio type design.
Oh no, Johnny's currently in his head designing his foil hat, so that when he takes his chart off in the morning with how much sleep he's had, he's waking up in his foil
So
hat.
we're getting. I think we've been chatting for quite a while. So if we could do maybe not our kind of 3 things thing that we often do at the end, but maybe some kind of practical things that people can take away and try for themselves. I mean, I know one which would be great to get your advice on, because I know you say don't use social media because it's about the brain activity as well. But one thing that I do is I have a thing called Flux on my laptop, and because I use Android, an app called Twilight. And that's even because I often end up doing emails in the evening. I know the difference because if I'm doing colour sensitive work, I have to use Photoshop, I have to have it switched off. The blue light in that, I know it takes me hours longer to fall asleep because of it. So I think that'd be my kind of recommend to
without
check
doubt.
with you.
And I think Apple have a version of it now, which actually night shift, which comes on automatically, or you have to go into your brightness settings. You can set it. It makes it better. You know, like we say, the brain activity is still there, but sometimes you have to work at night. So this isn't a perfect world where everyone does what James says. We sometimes have to do things that aren't great.
That's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
But I'm right in thinking that there is, by filtering out the blue light hitting the back of the retina is the most significant thing that prevents the release of melatonin, which helps you fall asleep.
So the two things are blue light and stress hormones. So your cortisol and your adrenaline, they inhibit the production of melatonin as well. So it's about being not stressed, not doing exercise 3 hours before bed, not eating a heavy meal 3 hours before bed, and not having blue light exposure before bed. And so if you're going to do it, do it that way.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And then I have a question, which is actually from the petriculture talk that you did for us, where you were mentioning the significance and importance of magnesium and how the majority of people are magnesium deficient. How do you find out if you are, and what do you do to make it better? Because there aren't really many foods that actually
Bathe in
contain
Epsom bath
magnesium.
salts.
Well, this is it is one, you can't find out if you are, because the only way you can find out is through a spinal tap.
Right.
So,
Fantastic. Where do we sign
so I'm sure. So it is one of them. The reason that we don't know, the reason why we have such a magnesium deficiency is that reason that we can't tell if we have or not. And full disclosure, I work with a company who do magnesium products, so magnesium sprays, and I went to work with them because I actually love their product so much. I went and said, I love your product. Can I actually start helping you design these products and develop them? And I think you can get products that you can spray on. So there's research around if you take magnesium through your skin rather than ingesting it, your body takes it in quicker. Take a bath with Epsom salts. There's different types of magnesium. So you've got like Dead Sea magnesium, which is like the basically the shit magnesium. Then you have magnesium from Holland, which is the creme de la creme of magnesium, and it's about how quickly your body absorbs it. But food wise, it's very difficult. And the good thing about magnesium, it's very hard to overdose on it. So I'm not saying go out and start bathing in it 15 times a day, but it's always something. And what often happens is I use it as an anchor point within the pre-sleep routine. So take this, you have a bath, because baths are great for sleep, and put some magnesium in, and we sort of get a double whammy. And we know whether we can't definitely say it's going to help, but generally people come back and report and say it has helped.
Cool.
Okay, I want to develop a nighttime routine, I think, to complement the miracle morning. So I think we should probably all have a little think about what we do.
Penny wants a nighttime routine that complements a 2.5 hour more miracle morning
I want the
routine.
6-minute nighttime routine.
I don't know that exists.
Yeah, we definitely can't do 6 minutes. You've got to see it as a golden hour before bed.
A golden hour.
So you've got to give it an hour. There's things you can do that are great.
Penny loves a good trend.
Oh, that sounds like a buzzword.
A golden hour of before sleep.
So you got to see sleep like exercise. You warm up for exercise. You have got to wind down for sleep.
Okay, so
things like colouring in, jigsaws, playing a musical instrument, drawing, creative things that focus your mind are great for before sleep. Reading a boring book, having a bath, as we said. Baths are great because what happens is your body temperature rises when you get in the bath.
Yeah.
Your body temperature drops as you step out quite quickly. Part of that production of melatonin, like trigger point, is a drop in temperature. So a bath sort of just, if there was a sleep hack, if I could ever bring myself to use those words, having a bath may be it, or shower before bed.
A hot bath.
Yeah, so something that warms you up. Then these relaxing activities. If you don't want to go to bed hungry, but you don't have a big meal, so you can pick foods like peanut butter on oatmeal bread or porridge, because they use an amino acid. They include an amino acid called tryptophan, and tryptophan helps production of melatonin. But there's got to be a complex carb in there, because the complex carb allows the body to absorb the tryptophan.
Oh, so like a banana.
A banana's good, yeah.
And that, but
Although
not
sugar content.
Yeah, so it's picking things an hour before bed that are best for you.
Okay, let me just clarify. You are saying 1 hour before bed, I can have a spoonful of peanut butter.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, James, I love you.
And then do a jigsaw.
But it's not just that. So I work with a school, and the kids were like, I put like half a stone on. I'm eating so much peanut butter. Like, I didn't mean like have a full tub before bed. And then it's winding down. Headspace is great. I know Headspace has been mentioned before. Calm, Headspace.
Yeah.
Use those as apps. I think they often have actual sleep have sleep meditations you can use. I love them. I think they're brilliant for winding yourself down before bed. You can use things like taking a line from a song and saying it over and over again. We don't want any breakup songs. We don't want Adele. We want stuff that's happy. They work great in terms of not letting those thoughts pop into your brain.
Right.
Writing things down. So using your lists before bed, as part of your pre-sleep routine, maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before bed, just getting everything out there. What I'm going to do tomorrow. Just getting your brain ready for welcoming sleep. But you can't force it. So you go to bed. If you're not falling asleep in half an hour, get up, go downstairs, do something like we discussed, and then try again.
Wow.
All I heard there was you can go to Lush and buy lots of bath bombs because you're in the bath.
And all I heard was I can eat peanut butter straight out of the jar before bed. Well, an hour before.
Well, I was listening. I thought it was all great advice.
It was brilliant, yeah.
And sometimes that is a problem with when you're a health practitioner. People take the thing they want to take, and then you have to come back and they regurgitate what you've told them. Like, no, I really didn't mean that. I didn't mean buy all the energy bombs from Lush.
So one of the things that I was interested to get your view on is the whole sleep deprivation. So the theory that if you miss an hour, you have to make it up at some point. Is that true? Because I do try and live by that, because I used to sleep through most of the 2 weeks of Christmas, and now I'm trying not to.
So within sleep experts, there's an argument of sleep debt versus having a consistent routine. So some people believe that we build up a sleep debt and we need to pay that debt. Some people believe that actually you need to be consistent, and when you have those bad days where you don't get much sleep, you're better off going back to your old routine because that works better, and your body responds to the routine better. Because if you pay off your debt, your body gets all over the place.
Yeah.
It is. I think my personal view is it's about the routine, not the debt. So I would always advocate that way. I've seen sports people use it in particular, where I know David A, the boxer, he used to just sleep until he woke up. And I think that's dangerous a little bit because sometimes your body can crave sleep, and like you said, you could sleep 14, 15 hours.
Yeah.
Sleeping more than 12 hours is as bad for you as sleeping less than 4. Because your body shuts down so much. If you do that on a regular basis, you're putting your body into a state that it shouldn't be in too much during the day. So I think it's very dangerous. If it works for you, then go with it. But I would always advocate keeping the routine consistent. The routine is ultimately the good thing.
So no more than 12 hours?
No, yeah, really. If you're having more than 12 hours sleep on a regular basis, you probably want to go and see your doctor, because that's not the norm.
Can I just apologise? I've just looked at Johnny what is that noise? We are recording in the middle of the day and there are fireworks, so if you think there's gunshot...
Definitely
It's not, it's a wedding.
No, it sounds a lot like gunshot.
I thought fireworks during the day was the jugs are in.
I know. Wow.
Massive shipment has landed.
I thought it was and on that bombshell,
Yeah, so I apologise.
no more than 12 hours sleep.
Well, on that bombshell. That's been absolutely awesome in the true sense of the word. Obviously, we'll put all the show notes and links and get some stuff from you so people can do different bits and pieces, the Munich Uni sleep profiling questionnaire and all those other bits. But yeah, I think we'll probably wrap it up there because we've gone on a little bit longer than normal. But just a huge thank you to James.
Thank you very much.
And goodbye from me until the next time.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And we'll see you on the next Throw Starfish podcast.
Sleep well.